Hello and welcome to the Transformation Project, a podcast and community for women who are looking to transform into the best version of themselves no matter where they are at. A place where you can listen, learn, and laugh along with us as we dive deep into different topics to help you live a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled life. Remember, we are all learning here together, and therefore the content and opinions of the hosts and our guests should not be taken as medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Transformation Project. We are so excited to have you with us. And today we're covering another topic that we're excited to learn more about. I don't know a lot about this, but I do know a lot of very successful people who use this particular thing that we're going to be talking about today as a tool. So I'm really excited to learn more about it. Today we have Rachel Aymie Hicks with us. She's a breathwork facilitator, hypnotherapist, and a life coach. After discovering the power of breathwork and becoming an embodied student herself, Rachel has been on a mission to share this wonderful healing practice with the world. And so we're so excited to have her here with us today. Welcome on, Rachel.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into breathwork?
Yeah, it was really interesting actually. I pretty much had a spiritual awakening, and I was struggling with my emotions. I had depression and anxiety as well. So I started to get into self-development, and I found all these other amazing modalities. That's why I became a life coach and an NLP practitioner. So I got right into hypnotherapy. But then I remember one day I saw an ad for a breathwork workshop, and I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, like when I thought of breathwork, I just thought it was, a simple, easy breathing exercise. So I was kind of intrigued, but I wasn't like eager to go. But luckily my friend actually messaged me, and she's like, this looks like something that you would be into. I think you should go. So I was listening to her, and luckily I did, because it was amazing. I went in there, I didn't really know what to expect. I was like, maybe a bit of breathing, maybe a bit of meditation. And the company that was running it was a couple from New Zealand. So they were doing workshops around Australia, and they were describing what was going to happen. And I was a bit like, how? We're just breathing. I don't understand.
We do that every day. Like, what's the big difference?
Yeah, I was really confused. And they were even saying, like, emotion can come up, and other people around you may be crying, they might be screaming, and everyone's safe. And they were even like, they might be laughing, like everyone's safe. It's a safe space. Just focus on your own journey. And we'll be here as well to guide you, and if you need any help. And they taught us the breathing pattern and the breathing exercise, and they were like, we're going to be doing this for an hour. And I was like, how? This is
Who wakes you if you fall asleep?
Yeah, that's what you would think as well. Oh yeah, I definitely did not fall asleep. Within 5 minutes, all this energy just started moving in my body, and it was almost like an amazing high, an actual high, of course. And I started to get all these flashes, like flashbacks from traumatic events, and I was just full of love, like it was like a love filter. And I went through this forgiveness process, and I could hear everyone around me as well going through deep journeys as well. And I was crying, and it felt amazing, like it felt like bliss. And yeah, after the session, I was just like, wow, what was that? And I just became hooked. And
Cool.
I did it regularly myself. And yeah, then I was like, oh my gosh, I got to share this with the world. So I ended up getting qualified and started to integrate it with my coaching and hypnotherapy as well, which was great.
So cool. So can you explain what exactly breath work is for our listeners? Because I feel like some of them will be like a vet and be like, it's just, you just sat there for breathing.
Exactly. Yeah.
The most I know about breath work is because I've done like a Tony Robbins we went and, we did Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins. And I know he uses breath work. And so we did, as he says he does, and I've seen some stuff that he does. And during the weekend, we did some stuff, but that's really my only experience.
Right. And are they like short? They're more shorter ones, right? Like maybe like a 50...
There was one that we did where the lady behind me was screaming.
Right.
But at the same time, for me, I was like, this is freaking me out.
Yes, yeah, I've seen him do a few activating breathing exercises, which is really good as well. It gives you energy, gets you into a high state. But yeah, breath work or transformational breath work, which is like the Journeys I guide, is a somatic healing and trauma release process. So if you think about it, throughout our lives, starting from childhood, we repress painful memories, experiences, emotions, trauma, and then those experiences get locked and stored in our body like energy, and they influence us throughout our lives going forward, even outside of our awareness. So even if you think of like animals, if you go on the Discovery Channel, you may see like an antelope running away from a tiger, then it escapes and it shakes like crazy. It's almost like resetting its nervous system in that moment so it can go back to the present moment. We kind of skipped the shaking and we just hold on to it. And it can be like the root causes that causes the like traumatic response, we can like forget what exactly happened, and then those are like the triggers. You know how you go out in life and you might get triggered, you're almost like triggered into like a stress response, whether it's flight or fight or fawn or freeze, and that's just like almost like an incomplete loop from the past. But when we go into a breathwork session, what happens is we do what is called conscious connected breathing, and it's a circular breathing pattern where each breath bleeds into the next, and there's no natural pauses at the top or the bottom, so it's just continuously breathing like this for a period of time, and it limits the blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, which I like to call the monkey mind, and it's almost like a gateway into the unconscious mind, which is connected to your body. And in this beautiful space, it's almost like you're that animal. You can shake it out. Like people get like physical sensations, but then they'll also have flashes coming up where they can process those past traumatic or negative events and almost complete the loop. So then when they come back after the session, it's almost like resetting the nervous system so you can like start living in the present, if that makes sense.
Very cool.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you kind of have to be in it for like an hour? Can it be shorter?
Yeah, I like to aim. You can do short ones, like maybe 30 minutes. I like to aim for 45 an hour because I've even had clients in the past where they're right at the end of like one where they're about to get a big one. They're like, I could have went longer. I was like, yeah, I could see it. I could feel stuff coming up to the surface. And I usually find to get into it, you need like 20 minutes to just get that nice flow into that breathing pattern. And that's when it starts to really quiet the monkey mind, because the monkey mind likes to come in and say, this is unsafe. You can't do this for an hour. But once that starts to quiet down, it's magical. Like you start to, like I've had people have business ideas and clarity come through. People have spoken to people who have passed away, and yeah, it's magical. It's
Very cool.
Yeah,
that's really interesting, because I do know, like personally, through a past marriage and also in my childhood, there is definitely stuff that I have forgotten until something will happen and I'll go, oh my God, that happened. And it's something that at the time you think, there is no way I'm ever going to forget this. But then you do. Like your body protects you, I guess, just by blocking that out, unless something specific, somebody says something, or there is a specific smell or a sound or something, and I'll be like, it'll remind me of something that's happened that I've completely cut out, I guess, through a protective sort of mechanism. But it's interesting that you say then that would be caught in your body, because we do know there's been a lot of research done about how stress makes you physically sick.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like stored, it's like stored energy in the body and it's stagnant in there. But this really helps it move and come out gracefully. And just what you were saying before about as well, I like to think of it as like having like flashbacks and emotional flashbacks. So you might have a flashback to a traumatic event, and it doesn't have to be so severe, but as kids, we're so tiny and everything is bigger to us. So I like to say like, capital T trauma and lowercase t trauma. And so depending what it is, but for example, I don't want to be like horrific, but like if you had like a car crash in a red car, and then you in the future or in the present you see a red car, you might get that response like, oh, I remember the crash and I'm being triggered right now and my body is going into that stress response. But then you also have emotional flashbacks where we consciously don't remember what exactly it was, but maybe someone yelled at you and then your body gets that same reaction. It's like your body remembers, and it's just like you said, it's just protecting you. It's just making sure, like, it's like a little alarm bell, like, oh, there's a threat here. But yeah, it's like breathwork is an amazing way to bring that up to the surface and be like, now you're safe as an adult, or you can use these safe behaviors or patterns instead of the ones that might have worked back in childhood or at school or wherever it happened. So,
right, because I could imagine for men, there would be many different people who'd be able to use this for many different reasons. I mean, we see even in business, for example, where we have people who have blocks in certain aspects or in their confidence or in their self-belief. And ultimately, if you do go back, you find it is something in their childhood where, they tried to do something and had failed. I'm using air quotes, people. But that then, without them even realizing that had happened, is limiting them now in adulthood, in their business or in their life or in their relationships. They keep going back and, repeating the same patterns. Mm-hmm. So who do you generally see in these breathwork sessions? Who is it for?
Oh, it's really interesting. It's really for like a broad range of people. That's what I love about it. It's a very empowering modality. And I even remind my clients, I'm not the guru, I'm not the healer, I'm your guide. And then they get to be the healer themselves and go on the journey themselves. And I use like a bit of like hypnotherapy and a bit of coaching as well. I add those elements in there just to keep them on track and guide them into a nice loving space, but they're doing all the work. And I would think of like people who are, maybe they're stressed about something, anxiety. It's great for like emotional and mood regulation as well. So if you're struggling to process emotions, it's also really for people who want inspiration, like if they're feeling a bit stuck, and they want to like have more ideas. Like it's so interesting. Every journey is different, and it's different for every individual, but it's also different for every time you do it yourself, if that makes sense. So all my journeys have been completely different. It might be like one of like emotional release, and then the next one is like, oh, that's a business idea, I really like that. So yeah, it's really for anyone, to be honest.
Would you say it's for children? And the reason I ask this is because my daughter can go from 0 to 100 very quick and can get very, very upset about stuff. So I'm constantly like, Kinsley, and when she gets going, like it's very hard to bring her back down. She's only 3, to put it into perspective. So I realize we're kind of in the terrible 2s, but she'll get so caught up and then she can't breathe. And I'll be like, Kinsley, like, take a deep breath, and I'll sit there and breathe with her, try to get her to breathe. And I know lots of parents will say that, being like, try and get them to calm down and
We
breathe.
used
Is
to
that
do ninja breathing.
ninja
We
breathing?
called it ninja breathing because my eldest daughter, who's 21 now, she would get herself really, really stressed or really anxious,
Yeah.
especially at bedtime. And so because trying to do any kind of like meditation or quiet breathing is just like, it was not cool. She wasn't going for that. But we would call it ninja breathing because she used to watch this TV show called The Three Ninjas or something. And she was like, that's cool. I want to be a ninja. So we would do ninja breathing and she would do like breathe in through it and out and just try and calm her down. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yes, actually, I found another breathwork instructor, and he did like a breathing exercise for kids to the Star Wars theme song. So,
Okay.
nice.
so I love the ninja idea. But yeah, with the breathwork journeys, obviously, I did a breathwork journey with a 12-year-old, and he was really good. My instructors did say though, you can tell with kids like that's just a very long time to do a breathing
Yeah,
exercise.
of course.
Kind of get a bit
Yeah.
restless. But there is amazing, like even short breathing exercises where you can activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest side of the nervous system. And it's interesting because people think that the emotions is triggering the breathing patterns. So like you might be stressed and have anxiety, and that's triggering the breathing, but sometimes it's actually the breathing pattern that's inducing the anxiety. So to activate the parasympathetic, I like to use breathing exercises as like seven counts in, hold for 4 counts, and then 8 counts when you exhale. But I mostly focus on a longer exhale because that really activates
Slowing down.
yeah,
Yeah.
the slowing down. There's also like box breathing, so that might be
Yeah.
fun for her, where you do like 4 breaths in, hold for 4, and then hold out for 4, and then hold again. That's really good too because it's like
Yeah.
down regulating the nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I'm going to have to keep practicing with her.
But I love
Also,
the
she's
ninja
3
idea.
and girls have to be feisty to get
Yeah.
ahead in this world. Like, I have to be honest, if I see the girls these days, when I was growing up, the boys were slightly more dominant, right? And then when my eldest daughter, so she's 21, it was still a little bit. But now when I look at my 12-year-old's grade and I look at the girls and the girls are feisty as heck. They don't take any nonsense. They're very, very strong characters. If I look at all her different friends, and this is different schools, like little girls, strong. So I think as a mom, like you have to try and manage that, right? But
Yeah.
as she's getting older, Kinsley is not taking any shit from anyone.
No, she's definitely
Just
not. But sometimes
But
I
it's
shouldn't say
hard.
she gets over the top, but like
It's hard.
I do kind of think she does. But anyways.
Like a good quality as well. She sounds like a little leader. But even I was going to suggest, even if you practice like doing the breathing while she's in that state,
Yeah.
that could transfer a little bit as
Oh,
well.
that's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
Because it is
So-
like it's hard not to react to that as a parent. You just
Yeah. Yeah. And I
say,
have, it's like, if I'm telling her like, okay, Kinsley, let's take some deep breaths, I will do them, but I probably don't do them for long enough. I kind of like take a couple and I'm like, kid, why aren't you following? Anyways. I wanted to ask you, what, if someone came to see you or if someone came to do a workshop, what would a typical like session or experience look like? Like, what could they expect?
Yeah, awesome. So what I usually get them to do is lie down on a yoga mat, and I usually avoid pillows unless it's like really thin, only because it will block the airways as well because it's
Mm.
deep mouth breathing. And I usually ask them to bring a blanket and a notepad. Um, to write notes after, because usually, there will be so much things happening during that session, and it's really good to have it on hand right next to them. A blanket though, because it actually can get quite cold, your temperature goes down during this process. I've had a couple of people where they've gotten quite hot, but it's typically like it's quite cool. um, and then we go into, I just explain what to expect and what breath work is. And then I put them into a meditative state to begin with. And then we slowly go into the process. The rhythm of it's usually a bit like slow, building up. And then there might be more like a climax, like intensity with the music. I love to play music as well because that enhances emotions to come through. And then we come back down into a nice, relaxing state where I put some hypnotherapy suggestions in there. Because the mind is so receptive at that point. They're in a deep trance. When they do this breathing exercise, they go into the theta brainwave state. So it's like the perfect time to put in those really positive suggestions. And then I allow them to integrate there. But physically, it can be different for everyone, but there's so much energy moving because of like the gas exchange, and it's pretty like full on breathing. So they could feel tingling, they could feel even a little bit of numbness, obviously a bit of a high. There's this thing called tetany where it's kind of like T-Rex arms. So I really need to warn people about this because if they don't know, they freak out during the session. But because it's just like you're exhaling so much carbon dioxide as well, and like I mentioned with the gas exchanges, your hands can come up and cramp up in this posture, and your fingers can get stuck in that position
Like
as
they don't
well.
even know that their hands are up by their neck.
Actually, yeah, people actually can, yeah, they're like, and I'm like, that's a good sign, you're going deep. But yeah, like when I did it, I was like, what is happening? Luckily, they did warn me, but I was like, it's like,
Why are my hands up here?
um,
You'd want a heads up on that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
definitely. I get excited though. As soon as I see them doing that, I'm like, yes, they're breathing deep. That's good. They're going there. And I also like to think of it in a spiritual sense that they're holding on to something and they're processing it, and they're going to let it go after the session. Because after the session, it obviously goes back to normal.
Yeah.
Um,
So is it like it's guided, like you're guiding them, you're talking through most of it?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes I might be quiet because I kind of sense it as well because I can see like they'll be breathing and then they'll be like, oop, and then I could tell they've just gone to like another dimension or something's coming through. And then I'll wait for a bit and then I'll be like, okay, back to the breathing. And then usually I would, yeah, coach them throughout the whole session with the music as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's really fun.
I would need the guided stuff for sure. Like there's no way.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because what you call the monkey brain for me is this, it's like I call it my squirrel, because I have ADD. So I'll be doing something and then I'll be like, oh, squirrel. And then like a dog, right? And just, and then I'm on like a different, so to try and get my brain to stop and just focus on one thing, I would definitely, that would not work with me by myself and my squirrel brain.
So like Yvette always says she can't meditate. Is this something that someone who can't meditate still can do? Like they'd still
Yeah.
get benefits from
And
it?
I feel like that's an excuse too. As you said that, I went, that sounds like an excuse.
A little. I mean, hey.
Yeah. But yeah, I do. Like I've always told myself I can't meditate. I really struggle to do anything like that because I'm generally thinking about at least 4 or 5 different things all at the same time. So that's always been tricky for me. I feel like, though, if I actually like went and did like meditation stuff with a meditation person, I can't use it as an excuse. My brother has ADHD. He's like the boss at meditating. So I can't use that.
It's just a skill you have to practice. That's all. That's all it is.
I just have to, if it's a priority, I say this to people in business all the time. If it's a priority and you want it badly enough, you'll make it happen. So clearly it just hasn't been enough of a priority. I need to listen to my own advice.
I resonate though. My mind is very like that, just all over the place. It took me a long time to even practice meditation and really get the hang of it. But this is not a normal meditation experience. It's just like so much going on. At the end, I find as well, I do short breath work exercises before my meditation because it just really helps calming my mind as well. But I definitely resonate with that. But I feel like breath work, I think because you're doing something as well, you're not completely still.
Yeah.
And when you do this breathing and it quiets that monkey mind, it's just amazing. Like some people just want to stay in there for longer. Um, so yeah.
I'm intrigued because at the moment I have to listen to podcasts and things to go to sleep at night. I can't go to sleep.
Right.
Insight into the life of Yvette, people. Yvette has to sleep with headphones because the audio has to be loud enough to drown out my head.
Right.
So that's where we're at.
Okay, you have to try this, Yvette.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be. Yeah,
you have to make this a priority
because otherwise my head is so loud that I literally can't sleep. So if I have something going on, a podcast or an audio book or something, I'm focused on that, and so my brain relaxes and then I fall asleep. So fun and games. But this sounds really great. So on that topic,
I'm interested to see what will come up for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of benefits can people see afterwards with this?
Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting benefits around breath work. So it's really good for the nervous system, like regulation for the nervous system, mood and emotional regulation. It's like a bit of a boost for your immune system as well. It's really good for inspiration, motivation, and releasing any trauma, belief clearing as well, and also to put in and install positive beliefs. But yeah, it's amazing. It's helped me massively. I got triggered the other day actually, and I couldn't wait to go home and do a breathwork journey. And so much came through just out of that one trigger. I found the root cause. I was exploring like the patterns that I developed from that root cause and how it did serve me then, how it doesn't now. And yeah, it's amazing. It's a magical practice.
So would you recommend to people, so like thinking more first timers, would you recommend they do something like you did, like a workshop where there's lots of other people around, or is it better to do it one-on-one?
Yeah, you know what? That's a really good question. I feel like it depends on the person, but either way, I do one-on-ones as well, even just on Zoom, with a lot of clients and with the workshops. Like I love workshops as well because the energy is just like so amazing with more people there, and when you see people come out of the workshop or like finish up the breathwork journey, just looking around like, what was that? And people sharing their experiences, and everyone just has a different experience, but they went on at the same time, if that makes sense, on like the same journey, but not. It's
Yeah, you're all in the room together. You were listening to the same person, but you all had your own personal journey, I guess.
yeah, it's so interesting.
Very cool. So how often would you say like you'd recommend someone to do it, or how often do you do it?
I personally do it a lot, just because I want to be the embodied student for my clients, if that makes sense. So I would do it every third or second day. And I don't force myself as well. If I don't really feel like I need it, it's completely fine. But yeah, even like Once a week is great. Even like maybe once a month. But you can do it as much as you like, really. It's a big somatic release, so a lot of body work. So you wouldn't want to do it more than once a day. Like people feel
Okay.
heavy right after, but then 2 hours after they're on a high, they feel amazing.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of work on the body. So yeah, like even if you're going through like a crisis, you can do it even once a day. But I would even recommend like once a week, once every 2 weeks. That's
Yeah.
probably perfect.
And is that something that you could have like a recording to follow along like at home, or would they have to be in contact with somebody facilitating it each time, or is it something that you can end up being able to do for yourself?
Yeah, you can definitely do it on a recording. I did, my instructors gave recordings to me, as well as the couple that did the workshops, like tour around Australia. So the recordings are great. Doing it by yourself is pretty tricky.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, once you're in that like state, and you know, in that real like deep trance, it's really hard to like have no one guiding you. So a recording is great. It's also great to have like a coach, obviously, because you can alter like the suggestions as well. Like I love asking lots of questions to my clients and then integrating it softly into the transformational journey. Um, but yeah, either way, recording with a coach, workshop, yeah, they all work wonders.
Kind of a silly fun. Oh, I don't know. We'll see. Do people actually fall asleep? Like, have you had anyone fall asleep?
Yeah, I quite a few times. I remember when I
Yeah.
was training, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do?" I asked my instructor, he's like, "Oh, they're actually not asleep. They're in a deep trance and they're just like their mind is processing stuff." So he's like, "Most of the time they're not." He's like, "Sometimes they are." But I would see it now, like they would be breathing, 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 and then they'll be like, and then I'm like, "Oh, there they go." And then I'll wait for a bit and then they'll come back. They'll kind of be like, "Oh, where am I?" And I'm like, "Okay, breathe again. Let's go. 1, 2, 3." And
I
then,
feel like that would be me. And then
You'd
I
fall
would kind of be
asleep.
like, did I just fall asleep or was I like in a trance or like what just happened there?
I've had them a few times be like, "Did I just have a micro sleep?" And I'm like, "A little bit," but yeah,
Yeah.
I can even tell now. I'm like, "Oh, you're in another world. Like you're processing stuff. I can see it."
That is
So.
so awesome. So if people want to get hold of you or learn more about this, how can they get hold of you and reach out?
Yeah, awesome. I have a Facebook page, so that's Rachel, Rachel, and then Amy, spelled really weird, Aymie, and then Hicks, Hicks. I also have Instagram, which is at blissful_breathwork. So you can follow me there. I also have an email address, which is rachelaymihicks@gmail.com.
Excellent. We'll make sure we pop that in the show notes for everybody, so it makes it really easy for
Awesome.
everyone to find you. Thank you so much for coming on today. I've learned heaps
Yeah.
and
Awesome.
I'm intrigued.
You need to do it a bit.
Yeah, I think
At least once.
at least once. Yeah, I think so. I think it's this might be the time for me to put aside all those little self-limiting beliefs that I have about what I'm able to do and what I can't.
Sorry, Rachel, you're in Sydney? Is that
Yes, I'm based in
you're in
Sydney.
Sydney? But like you could do something via Zoom.
Yes, yeah. I do a lot of sessions on Zoom as well. Like some people like to come to my house to do it in person, but I do a lot of them on Zoom too, because some people like the comfort of their own home as
Yeah,
well.
fair enough. Yeah, cool.
Awesome. So there's no limit. Zoom has made things so much easier. Like it doesn't matter where you are, you get to connect to so many incredible people to help you in whatever little specific part of your life that you're looking to transform or to improve or to change. And it's easy to do that then in little bite-sized pieces with all these incredible people around the world.
It's amazing.
Don't let time and space stop you, anybody. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Transformation Project. We're very excited to see you all next time. Wherever you are in the world, hope you are having an absolutely fantastic day. Thank you for listening in to this episode of the Transformation Project. The Transformation Project is not just a podcast, we're also a community. We're a collective of like-minded people all around the world seeking to live their best life and raise each other up. We're looking to support you, set goals, get healthier, connect with yourself and others at a deeper level, and better understand yourself and the world around you. We're always looking to link arms with like-minded people wanting to create more out of life. You can connect with us via our website, which is www.thetransformationproject.net.au. Email us at support@thetransformationproject.net.au, or simply listen in to one of our podcast episodes, which can be found on all podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can even watch some of our episodes on our YouTube channel, simply called The Transformation Project. Please like and subscribe to make sure you hear all the incredible shows and guests we have lined up. If you have any feedback or any comment, we would love to hear those, as well as any ideas or guests that you think we should be interviewing in future. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Transformation Project.